today's webinar, 6 anti-fatigue mat installation tips. This is to ensure safety and to extend the life of your mat. So important topic, and we're gonna dive right in and keep moving today. So just a quick introduction for those of you who don't know who I am. I've been with Acromat for 15 years. So that's 15 years in this industry. I love what I do. Very exciting to be here today as well. And I actually came into this industry a little bit by accident. My relative offered me a position soon after I got out of high school, and I dove right in feet first, and here I am. And it was a few years ago now, but I kind of had a breakthrough moment when I realized that there was a lot of need in the marketplace for custom mats, and it wasn't readily available, wasn't easily accessible. And so I kind of set myself to solve that issue and bring about a way that custom mats could be as easily obtained as a standard rectangle or square mat. I wanted to make it as quick and easy for everybody to be able to order, something complex as it is to order just an off the shelf. So that really led to the development of our custom mat building tool, AcroSketch, which we launched a year ago in May. So that's coming up on a year, and we're excited about that. For those of you who don't know what AcroSketch is, it's a tool that's on our website that you can use to design a custom mat of any shape, size, angles, lengths, cutouts, whatever you need. You can do that right there online, and within minutes you get an instant quote for the configuration that you generate. And then regardless of how complex your design is, the mat is made to one single piece, to ensure there's no trip hazards or any safety issues. And that leads well into our topic today, which is on mat installation. So we'll jump into the agenda. So just 12 slides we've got today, and my goal is to give you some practical tips and tools that you can use, whether you're an Acromat partner or not, whether you use big mats, whether you use small mats, whether you're in the market for new mats, or if you're just looking to prolong the life of the existing mats that you have. We're going to walk through why installation is often overlooked, but critically important, and whether you're looking to install, maybe 10 to 15 3x5s, or even a single mat that's several hundred square feet. Hopefully these tools that we share will apply for whatever project you're working on. And then at the end, we'll do a live Q&A. So as we go, feel free to submit questions into the chat, and we'll address those once we get to the Q&A at the end. It can be about mat installation or anything anti-fatigue mat related. Feel free to throw them in there. I'm a resource to help get some value out of the time that you're spending today. Just a quick note on next month's webinar. We're going to have a 1-year anniversary session, and we're going to be doing live demonstration on the AcroSketch tool, which will be fun and exciting. And there's an opportunity for attendees to win a mat of up to a $2,500 value. So stay tuned. We'll talk about it a bit more at the end of the presentation on how you can qualify for that, but that's going to be an exciting session that we have next month. So just going to jump into slide number 1. Why are we talking about installation? So anti-fatigue mats, when you're purchasing those, you're making an investment in your people. They're designed to improve the safety and health and productivity of your workforce. And depending on the quality of the mats you choose, you're looking to get years of support out of them. So why is installation important? Well, I've seen it to be one of the most overlooked tasks, and I think it's timely that we talk about this now, because it's critical for protecting your people and your budget. For the purposes of this webinar, installation is really the entire process from placing an order for the anti-fatigue mats all the way through to educating your team members on how to use and care for them, to laying them out in your facility, and then also to the maintenance in the months ahead once you have the mats laid out. So incorrect installation that can lead to a lot of issues. We've got some here on the screen, some examples of what can go wrong. Shorter mat lifespans, that's a big deal. If it's not installed correctly, it could wear out quicker. On down the list, safety hazards. You can have unclean areas, mats flipped upside down, mats placed in the wrong area, productivity issues, unnecessary costs. So a lot of things, a lot of negative things can come out of a mat not being installed correctly. So we feel it's an important subject, and hopefully what we're going to go over today will be some great takeaways. And lastly, time is money. So that's a big one. It's a kind of a often used phrase, I guess, but it is really true here, what we're talking about. Earlier this month, our operations manager, Blake Seed, he was asked to come on site at a large window manufacturer to help install a custom acromat. And it's a 24-hour facility, and they just had a 60-minute break in production to get this project done, which is not a lot of time when it comes to the installation. So having a good plan is critical, and with a good plan, they're able to make sure that the mats got in place. People were able to get back to work quickly without disrupting the production environments. So there's a saying that probably heard, but it goes like this: a job well planned is half done. And we find that to be very true in our industry. So the first step, step number one in these 6 points, is to plan for the installation. So go ahead and build your team, whether it's modular tiles that require time-consuming putting together, whether it's a high number of small standard mats that you're using throughout a facility, whether it's a single large custom mat. It's important to have a team in place who knows what needs to be done and what's expected of them. It's a really simple thing, but it can go a long way in making the rest of the process go a lot smoother. So we build mats in a single piece to prevent stacking and overlapping and trip hazards. But that laying them out is very easy, but they can be sometimes heavy and require several people to actually move them, and also help with unboxing. So picture that you see on the screen here is a good example. It's 550 square feet. We recently delivered that to one of our partners at Anderson Windows, and you can see that it's a big mat, and you just need to make sure you've got the right team members involved for that type of thing. Next point is get each task on the calendar. So again, back to proper planning. It's important to know what lead times are. So once you place your order, you want to know when is the mat going to deliver. And a lot of companies offer ranges, like it might be 14 to 18 days. It might be, the week of the 20th or whatever that kind of vague lead time might be. And that was really the catalyst for our lead time, which is a 10 business day guarantee. So from when you place your order, we guarantee it will ship within 10 business days. And that really helps to get the plan in place so that you know when the mats are going to be on site, when you can start your project. And if you ever have questions about that, feel free to reach out. We're here to answer those questions and make sure that the plan that you're creating is working with the delivery of the mat that you're getting as well. Step number 2, and I love this one. This is my favorite. Dispose of all old mats, emphasis on the all. So it's crazy the amount of times I see mats stacked up and new ones come in and they just get put on top. And so we can't really emphasize this enough, but don't allow for stacking of mats. It is not safe. It's not good practice. It is not healthy for the new mats. It is just all around a bad solution. Creates trip hazards, uneven surfaces, things like that. So as you can see here, don't allow for the stacking and overlapping. Make sure you have a plan for disposing of those old ones, and it's communicated in that plan as well. So if your operators do feel like they need to stack mats on top of each other, it could speak volumes about the quality of the mat that you're investing in. They may feel that it's too thin, they need to have extra ergonomic support or something by stacking mats, but it does create a lot of unnecessary hazards. Kind of goes back to making sure you've got the right mat chosen in the first place, and then you can eliminate those issues once the mats do arrive. So make sure you refresh on mat disposal process to make sure it's seamless and efficient. Again, build it into the plan. Lost production can be costly, so make sure there's a place for these mats to be taken out of the area so that it's not going to delay your project. So number 3, clean the area fully. So cleaning the work area before installation, it sounds obvious, but just like the whole topic of installation, it's easy to overlook because of how fast-paced things are these days. We also find that if the plan's not well communicated, there could be other people that receive the mat in and they just get it thrown down quick and move on with the day. But you want to just make sure that, again, the plan is communicated, people know what's expected, and there's a schedule for things. So cleaning the area fully, placing new mats in unclean areas is one of the quickest ways to diminish the mat life expectancy. So it's gonna start deteriorating too quickly. Sawdust, metal shavings, and fiberglass, they can erode the mats from underneath if they get laid down on top of a dirty work area, and that can cause them also to slide around. And same goes for mats over damp and unclean areas. That can cause some mold, mildew, bacteria buildup, things like that, which you want to avoid. And then cleaning protects vulnerable products and people. So it can be quick and easy, but just make sure the area is swept up, it's cleaned, it's not any of these unwanted things are still in the area before you lay the mats down. Step number 4, meticulously place your mats. And this is another one that I personally am kind of passionate about as mats get installed. So make sure mats are not pushing up against walls, table legs, or machinery. That can damage them and reduce the life expectancy. And if you've done a good job of designing the mat, then there should be no reason for this to happen. There shouldn't be a need for mats to be, riding up on equipment and things like that. It should be made correctly. So you just need to take your time with it. Stacking and bunching, that can cause tripping hazards and expose hard and slippery surfaces that are supposed to be covered. And it all really comes back to having the right shape and size in the first place. So making sure that you've got it designed correctly. We're here to help with that as well. AcroSketch is your favorite friend when it comes to designing mats to the right shape and size. You can really get it down to 1-inch increments so that then there's no need for these mats to be placed incorrectly. We had a recent example, which I just wanted to share as well. When it comes to unboxing and getting the mats laid out, just take care with that. We had one where in the course of the unboxing process, the mat was damaged. And with that particular case, we were able to fully restore the mat. We had it sent back to us. We repaired it, sent it back to them in good shape, which is kind of a unique feature with some of the mats that we offer. We're able to do that with. But a lot of times, if you rip or tear a mat as you're placing it out, it could be too much damage that it can't be repaired. So you just want to be mindful of that as well. Step number 5, this is naming the area where each mat will go. And this is especially important if you're ordering multiple mats and you're going to install them all together. They're going to be delivered together. You want to make sure that you know where each mat is going to go, especially if they're all different. So just as a quick example, we've all forgotten where we parked the car. They have a panic button these days, but we haven't put those on the mats yet. So in the meantime, what we do have is the ability in AcroSketch, as you're designing the mats, to label the mat with the area. And it doesn't matter what that is, as long as it makes sense to you. We don't need to know, what John Dee's workbench means, as long as it makes sense to you. And then when the mats arrive, there will be a label included on the mat that will have that area name on the label. So you can just unbox the mat, take it right to the correct area. And then once the other steps are followed, it's ready to place. So it can be as simple as just writing that down on paper, like you see on the screen here, your different size mat, and that could be metal fab, shipping, workbench, cell number 3, whatever makes sense to your work areas, you can put that in there. And it's a free form text field, so you can type whatever makes sense to you in that box. So it's a simple feature, but we included it because it makes it easier to place the mats once they arrive, especially for those large facilities doing multiple mats at once. And number 6, make sure you have the products that you need. So important to make sure you've got everything lined up. Back to the planning stage again, make sure it's all thought through ahead of time. So things to consider: do you have dry and dusty areas that are prone to sliding? You might need to think about grip coat. You might need to think about some sort of industrial strength tape like the Mighty Line tape to go around the outside edges. Another thing to consider: will your mat need to be cut and bonded on site? Sometimes if it is a big complex mat, it will need to be, final bonds made on site, something like that. So you just want to make sure you've got the repair kit ready if that's happening. The other example of that is if it's going around, a column that's going to the ceiling, and you need to bring it in 2 pieces and then make that final bond. Another one to consider: if you're using an ESD safe mat, do you need ESD snaps? Do you need ESD cables? Think through those things as well, and make sure you have those on hand so there's no further delay once you start putting these out. Worst thing is you get halfway through and you remember, oh, we need a bonding kit, and then you've got 2 pieces together without being able to put them together. Leads to downtime, things like that. So one note on the bonding repair kit I wanted to make: be very careful when you are trimming. So if for some reason you do need to make a trim, maybe some piece of equipment has changed a little bit since you ordered the mat, or maybe it was just needs to be slightly trimmed to align correctly. Be very careful when you do that. And the reason I say that is because we recently had a safety manager who was actually on vacation when the mat arrived, and one of their enthusiastic employees attempted to trim the mat down to fit into an area, and he ended up cutting it into 2 pieces, which rendered the mat kind of unusable for the intended area. So just make sure you take care, you plan it out. And there is, we have done a webinar series on this topic before that will give you some good tips on how to do it carefully and get the best result out of using that bonding repair kit. So make sure you think about that, and we're here to help as well if you have any questions further around that particular topic. And this is a bonus slide, one bonus step. So just like cleaning the area before installation, it's important to take time to regularly clean your mats as well after they're installed. This, we find, is a great way to extend the life of the mats and keep them operating at peak performance. So even the best mats, they will break down if left exposed and uncleaned. Educate your operators. These mats are very durable and they're very versatile, so whatever cleaning procedures you use, they normally fit in well with that, whether it's sweeping, mopping, even pressure washing, things like that. You can do a lot of things with these. Another thought to share here as well, as you can see on the screen, but some posters that you could put in your break rooms and bulletin board areas, things like that. Just raise some awareness with your team. Do you need to clean your mats? Are you resting heavy equipment on them? Do you need to use this checklist to inspect the mats? Things like that is a great way to raise awareness about keeping on top of this this topic, and then get it on the calendar. So every 90 days, every 180 days, whatever is suitable for your environment and schedule, maybe just have a reminder coming up on the calendar to make sure that this is actually done and it's not just left to chance that they might get cleaned someday. So making sure that that gets done is important. And then make sure that your mats can be cleaned. So this is just something to share for those that are not using an Acromat product. Just make sure you ask your supplier about the cleaning procedure. Can be lots of different ones. Just make sure you know what that is. Lower quality mats like a PVC foam, they can break down if they're exposed to certain types of chemicals and cleaners. So you want to just understand what is the correct cleaning procedure for the mats that you have. The 100% nitrile, like the Acromat 101, that is not degraded by chemicals, so that makes it very versatile and easy to be cleaned with multiple different options. So, and the picture you see of the mat on the screen there, I just wanted to talk about that briefly. Recently visited a client on the East Coast to talk about their need for some new mats because the safety managers were worried that they had worn out and they were ready to be replaced. And it turns out the mats were perfectly sound. They just hadn't been cleaned since they had received them about a year ago. So it's just a case in point that keep them clean, keep them up to date. It's well worth it. That picture, I actually just did that with a Clorox wipe, so it didn't take much. It was just a wipe across, and that's how clean it became. So you just want to think about those things. We did hold a webinar on cleaning a couple months ago, and that is available on our YouTube channel as well as all the other webinar recordings as well, in case you're interested in more information on that. So with that, I'm just going to take a minute here and open the Q&A, and we'll jump into some of those questions. If there's any others, feel free to pop those in there now. Okay, Rick asks a great question. Can you address the common practice of stacking worn out anti-fatigue mats? I see this often when I do walkthrough evaluations, and that's a great question. Really links well with our topic today, Rick. And my first couple of thoughts that I want to share on that particular question. One is we go back to the planning phase. Making sure that we have the installation planned properly is a great way to prevent this happening, because mostly when I talk to operators who have done that, it's like the new mat showed up, I'm busy, I'm doing my work, I got the new mat, I didn't have time to take care of the old one, so I just laid it down on top and I carried on working, and there it is. So going back to the planning phase, making sure, you know, Thursday at 11, we need you offline for 10 minutes whilst we move your mat out, and we're going to put the new one in. It's planned, and it prevents that from happening. Second point I wanted to share is about what we mentioned earlier, the quality of the mat. So you might want to look into why this is happening. Could be because they don't feel they're getting the support they need out of the new one. And it's kind of human nature, I guess, that we think, you know, if one is good, then two's got to be great. But that's not the way with anti-fatigue mats. There needs to be some education on the reason that that's a problem. And the safety folks can definitely speak to this better than I can as to why that's an unsafe issue. But you'll probably want to think about those couple of things. Hopefully that helps. The question there on the stacking of anti-fatigue mats, a big topic. Casey asks a good question here. What is the most effective way to clean the mats? Pressure washer with just water or chemicals needed? So that's a good question there, Casey. As I mentioned, we did have a whole cleaning series webinar, which we can reference back to you as well, and that will hopefully help with some of your questions. But what we often say is that, especially the 101 series mat, it can fit in well with any of your typical cleaning procedures. So pressure washing is fine if you use some sort of degreaser or chemical along with that as their nitrile. That's not going to damage them and certainly help get them cleaner quicker. So a lot of things can be done on there, as I said, all the way from just sweeping or mopping. Whatever your standard cleaning procedures are normally works well. And then last point on that is just make sure before you place the mats back out, if you've washed them with water or chemical of some kind, make sure they're completely dry before you put them back down. So, great question. Bianca asks if the edges begin curling on the mats that are custom to an area, should they be replaced? And I would say absolutely, without knowing exactly the area or the mat that is being referenced here, but anytime there's a trip hazard, we want to address it. Anytime that something is curling, we want to address that. Our warranty actually covers that mats will always lay flat. So if you ever have a curling issue with an Acromat product, that's covered in our warranty. So be mindful of that. If it's a different type of product that's being used and mats are curling up, sometimes If it's like a modular design, you can actually just replace the border system. If it's a one piece, you may have to replace the whole thing. Depends on what type of mat you've got. But certainly if you start seeing that curling, that's a time that you need to be thinking about addressing that either through a repair or completely replacing the mat. Great questions.